Geoffrey van Orden, MEP, thank you very much for speaking to us today. Reinhard Bütikofer, MEP, a German MEP of the Green Party, has suggested that Theresa May, UK Prime Minister, is in fact indulging in a de facto coup d'etat concerning her modus operandi for leaving the EU. What do you think of such a statement?
Well, a lot of nonsense. Why do you imagine that a German Green has any deep understanding of what's motivating the British Prime Minister or the way we're going about this whole Brexit deal? So I would regard that for what it's worth, and that's not very much.
But let's just look at the facts, if we may. 52% versus 48, 52% for leave, 48 for remain. That's 48% of the country. 48% of the country that did not know that part of this advisory referendum was going to involve leaving the single market. That's the first step, and that's a step that, if I may finish, that Theresa May seems to be taking. What do you think?
Well, the reason she's saying that we can't remain in the single market is that we want control over our borders. If we remain in the single market, then you're straight into the problem of free movement and also the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice. So that's the reason. Ideally, winding back some months, if it hadn't been for those aspects, we might have taken a rather different view. But the idea that the British people had such a nuanced view of this vote, it was a vote on whether they liked our membership of the European Union or not. And you say 48% said they wanted to remain. Yes, I was one of those people. But I would suggest to you that a large proportion of that 48% are perfectly content with how we are today and how the British government, led by Theresa May, is conducting herself. So I think you will find if we had a rerun today, the figures would be entirely different and far more people would be in favour of leave. And I think if we went to the country today, I think it would be an overwhelming vote in support for the Conservative government. So I don't take any of this nonsense that's coming from left-wing Greens dressed up in some other guise.
You would still acknowledge, though, I'm sure, that there are an awful lot of people. You may say that perhaps a portion of them are pleased with the way that the Conservatives are handling this, but I'm sure you would acknowledge that a portion of them, a large portion of them, are not very happy at all. Let's take the case of the 1 million, 2 million people, was it, that were UK residents, but formerly EU, and therefore were not allowed to vote, and the same people that were in the EU and were formerly UK but living in the EU, and they weren't allowed to vote either. How do you think they'll feel?
Well, I think they should be reassured because they should know that as far as the Prime Minister and the British government are concerned, very high on our list of priorities is making sure we look after the interests both of British citizens working on the continent of Europe and European Union national subjects who are living in the United Kingdom. That's very high on our priorities, and I feel quite confident that we will get a very good arrangement on that.
I get the impression, if I may say, Geoffrey, to finish, that you were actually initially unhappy that the British people voted to leave rather. You were unhappy with that. But what you're saying now is that you think genuinely that the Conservative Party are doing a stand-up job. Is that it?
I wasn't unhappy that the British people voted to leave. I was surprised. I said that, yes, my final conclusion, after a lot of wrestling with myself, I have to say, and opposing so much of what goes on in this place, I made a straightforward, pragmatic calculation that I thought it was in our best interest to remain on our terms and fight for European reform. British people decided otherwise. I'm perfectly content with their decision, and I think that we will get a very good deal and the United Kingdom has a great future ahead of it.